Hi, it's Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. Now, today is Thursday at 2 o'clock, and here I am. I'm broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And I'm in my studio with my wife, Gloria.
Welcome, everyone.
And she'll be monitoring the broadcast and checking out the chat room. And today, what I want to do is I want to have a little plein air exercise. And plein air, to me, is very important. It's important to an artist to be able to capture the information about a landscape and to go out on site and actually look at the landscape, capture the colors, the size, the shapes, and the actual elements out there in the landscape. Also, the weather condition. This particular one I want to show you, it's overcast because it was early in the morning. So I'm going to take you to my overhead camera. No, I want to take you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show the film, and then when I come back, we'll discuss that, and I'll show you some. I want to do some follow-on touches to the actual plein air painting. So let me set up my camera here. So I'll be back with you as soon as the video is over. Okay, this is my setup here on my plein air setup on the waterway. And this is a scene that I was looking at as I was starting to do this painting. And there's the Great Bridge location right there on the left, straight ahead. But you can see there's an awful lot of stuff around that I pretty ignored in this painting. So I start out with the sky. It's an overcast day, clouds up in the sky. So I start out with a mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna to give me a gray mixture. And I'm adding the gray colors into the sky to show the overcast clouds. And I'm using a 3/4 inch flat brush from Holbein to add in the colors. Now I'm using watercolor canvas, 8x10 Fredrix Watercolor Canvas here for the painting. Now I'm adding a little darker mix now because the clouds are a little dark at the top. So I add a little more color, a little more ultramarine to the mix to darken it up, to give me a nice dark gray. And then I blend it out with the flat brush. The paint goes very nicely and smoothly on the canvas. Now, another layer I'm going to put is a yellow ochre with using a flat brush, and this is the light sky there. It's not exactly white. It's got a kind of a warm color to it. So I use yellow ochre here underneath the clouds to give it that warm color. So yellow ochre next to that gray will define the sky and the sky colors. And I'll blend in those colors together with the flat brush. So that takes me down to about 1/3 of the painting now is covered with the clouds and the overhead. Now the cerulean blue is the background trees way off in the back, right behind the bridge. There are some low-lying trees. So I'm using a cerulean blue to start out with that color there, just to give me something to start with. And I'm bringing the yellow ochre down from the gray clouds into those background tree line, which I just put in with the cerulean blue. A little bit of blending with the flat brush to blend the colors. I'll let that dry while I work at the bottom here. Now I'm using the same sky color to show the reflections in the water here in the foreground. So I'm starting out with that gray mix that I used in the sky, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. So the reflection in the water will be the same colors as I see in the sky. It'll be a little darker at the bottom, just like the sky is a little darker at the top. So I'm putting a little darker mixture at the bottom of the water reflection. and using the flat brush to blend the color out nice and smooth. The color on the watercolor, and I'm adding yellow ochre there to get that yellow reflection from the white light sky. That'll be the reflection color into the water. Same colors as colors in the sky. And the watercolor dries very flat on the canvas. It spreads out. The watercolor goes on top of the canvas, and then the color spreads out on the material. So when it dries, it's really a flat color that you get. I'm going back in with, again, adding another darker value. I want to really make those clouds a lot darker, make them look a little more realistic, because they were dark at the top and light at the bottom. So add a little darker mix, adding a little more colors of ultramarine and burnt sienna together, give me a darker mix. And the same thing in the reflection in the water. I'm going to darken the foreground water reflection with a little darker mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna, a nice dark gray. And smooth it out with the 3/4 inch flat brush. And then blending in the colors with the in the sky with the flat brush. Smoothing out and blending the colors. A little gentle stroke, horizontal. And that's the final block in of the sky and the reflection in the water. That's the block in phase. So now with a round brush, number 8 round brush from Silver Brush, I'm going to put in starting with the tree line, which is in the middle ground. Hooker's green, which is a dark green. With a little bit of water in it, gives you a medium green, but a nice dark green color to start with the trees. And then I'm locating by judgment here of the size and the distance of where these trees are located on the horizon. There's a medium-sized large tree here on the left side, which is a nice blocker from leaving the viewer from going outside the painting. And some little trees here in the background, here on the horizontal. Start there at this point, put them right there. Again, studying the horizon line, judging where the other tree, there's a larger tree right here, not in the middle, but just a little bit off right center is the large green tree. These are large evergreens, so it's a really large, big tree. Now with a little bit of mixture of that green mixed, I put a little burnt sienna on my brush. I'm marking up the water line, which runs along just below the tree line there, below the horizon line, but it's the water line runs down to a certain point, and then it has a slight angle as I come forward, because there's a curve here in the waterway. There's a little bit of curve. So the water line will follow the curve of the water and the bank. So I'm just putting that in, establishing the water line, just putting in a dark value. Again, that's Hooker's green mixed in a little bit of burnt sienna, give me a dark green brownish color. And now there's a large tree now I have just a little bit off right center. It's a large evergreen tree. And I'm going to start putting that shape in right there, just to locate where it is, to get started on building that up. Another little tree, a medium-sized tree to the left of that tree, just in front of the bridge is right behind that. So that kind of identifies where the great bridge is, right behind that little middle tree there. So this area, now I'm putting in some background trees that are behind the bridge and also behind these trees here in the middle ground. This is a very historical site here of 1776. This is where the Battle of Great Bridge was held in this location. And this bridge is now, of course, the modern shape. Now I'm putting in some background trees now behind some buildings here on the right. Now, you will notice if you look at the photograph that I'll show you in the beginning that I've eliminated a lot of the other buildings and boats and other things are here. I just want to get some main structures. But I did want to keep this building. It's a nice shape, and it gives a little more interest to this part of the painting. So here I'm painting a negative shape behind the building with some background trees to define the roof line. And I continue off. There's two parts of this building. There's like a porch area, and then there's a larger portion of the building. It's really a restaurant here now. And it's under construction. It's not in use yet. It's still under construction. Now I'm putting the rooftop in on this larger building off to the right. That's a little mixture of, I'm using some of that green, but it mixed in a little bit of burnt sienna to give me like a medium gray. It's a medium gray top on the building. So I'm defining the rooftop there with a medium gray color. With a mixture of green plus burnt sienna. And there's a little tree off here to the right of the building. Again, that's another showstopper. It keeps the eye from going out the right side of the building, right side of the painting. Now put in a little green number 1 now. There's some grass on the ground. There's a grass bank here next to the waterway, so I'm putting that green grass along the edge of the water, next to the borderline. Now, this canvas to show you the removal of color. All I do is wet the area. I'm taking out those 2 small trees. Just wet that area with a wet brush, and then take a tissue, and I blot it away. That's how easy it is to remove color on the canvas board. That's why I like to work with this. I can put color on and take it off very easily. I'm going back in and work on some of the tree shapes. A little more negative painting around that building here on the right. Building up that larger tree here by the building. Also, you see here I'm doing negative shape around the edge of the roof there, a little porch there. The edge of the porch that takes care of that rooftop. Add a little color to the right side, the white side tree. So I'm blocking in the areas that I want to identify in the painting. The main elements, the tree line, some of the main trees in the landscape, the building on the right, and of course when we get down to the bridge, we'll put that in also. So I really ignored all the other structures that are in this area. There's a lot of structures down here, but I eliminated those and simplified the scene just to show what I want to bring up. And that's this main landscape area, the basic landscape, and the main location is going to be the Great Bridge. Now I added a Great Bridge in there. That horizontal dark brown line is the Great Bridge, which I'm pointing to. So I want to locate that in the painting. Here I'm removing some more paint So I wet the area with a damp brush, take a tissue and blot it down, blot it off, and remove the color, because that's going to become part of the water. So I take that little section out. So removing color with a damp brush and with a tissue is very easy on the watercolor canvas. Now here I'm putting a little bit of green grass on the left bank over here. So the left bank is a very small area, it's shown, but there's a little bank over here on the left side. A little bit of green grass. So that's really the final portion of that painting there. Now I'm going to do some drawing details. To me, the most important part of my art is to do a detailed drawing. And here I'm taking the same scene and I'm going to draw out the details, because I want to take the painting I just finished, which is really a blocked in version, and I want to go back to the studio and add in some more details. So here I'm defining the details I want to add to the plein air painting that I did here on location. So here I'm locating the bridge and its structure. There's a middle-sized tree right there in front of the bridge on the right side, and there's another tree on the left of the bridge, in front of the bridge, which I did on the plein air painting. And the left side of the bank, just to give it a location and an angle that it will have, and a bank, showing the bank going down into the water. Now the area off to the right is the most important, because that's the added area that I've added for more interest here in the painting. That's going to be the shoreline and the water line along the right edge of the waterway. And then now sketching in that large evergreen tree next to the building. And really define right there. I define the horizontal. Horizon line goes right there below that large tree. It'll be at the bottom of the bridge. Will be the horizon line. Now I'm adding in those rooftops to that building on the right. Again, I'm redrawing it, redrawing the shape, just to have a good reference. I've already painted it, but now I'm drawing it now for detail. And I can go back in and make some changes on my plein air when I get back into the studio. Now I'm drawing in the larger portion of that building. So the angles and shapes of the rooftop and the size of the rooftop are very important. Make it look real as far as the landscape is concerned. And there are quite a few windows, large windows on this. This is a screened-in porch here on this building. So I'm capturing the shape of those windows, or large areas that are paneled off on the side of that building. So I got that design. There's a little dormer here on that right building, so I'm drawing that little dormer in to get the shape of that. The rooftop of the dormer. And there's a little window there in the front of that building, facing the waterway. So that will help me in my final painting, getting those things located and getting the size. Now at the bottom here, next there's a wharf where the boats tie up and so forth, so I want to define a little bit of that. And also here, I'm adding in the reflection in the water. That's something I want to add to my final painting. I want to add in the reflection, which will give me a little more interest here in the foreground. So the foreground of the painting will be have the water, and it'll have the water and reflection of the sky, but it'll also have part of the reflection of that building on the right-hand side, which will add a little more interest to the foreground and build a little more dimension So I want the eye. The eye will be following up that right side across the painting into the area of interest, which will be the Great Bridge itself. The Great Bridge structure on the left side, next to those trees. Okay, so I'm putting in, here I'm going to put in the reflection of that large tree, which will be reflected in the water. You can see also from the photograph here on the right, you can see where that large tree falls in the water next to the building. And that middle side tree is right off to the side of that. And there's some other trees reflecting into the water from the background. So that'll fill in that middle ground area and also give me a good pointer into the interest of the area of interest, the center of interest, which is the Great Bridge. Now there's some posts here, and I think they're very interesting. There's some white posts that are up here, and that's a very interesting structure. And I'm going to capture that also. Those are part of that boat landing that's in front of this large building where the boats are tied up. And later on, there'll be boats tying up to go to the restaurant. So there's a large landing here that edges out onto the water. It has these large white posts, which I want to capture in my final painting. And there's a lot of posts here on the side of the landscape here that is a structure of the embankment. It has a fence line all the way across the side of the embankment here, which I'll have in the final painting. Making some final touches, shapes, and also the background trees behind the building, indicating the location of those, and that tree off to the right. Some of the grass, texture in some of the grass. So here are really some final points I'm picking up by eye of what I see. And then there'll be some final touches on the building, on the bridge. Be a reflection of the water. And there's also some background trees behind the bridge, which I'll put in. And here I'm indicating the size and shape of those background trees. So that completes my Great Bridge Waterway. Okay, you can see that the painting and the drawing, I was there for a while, and you can see I eliminated a lot of detail in order just to capture the main elements and to capture the main part of the scene. That bridge was very famous in 1775, December 1775. It was the site of the Great Bridge Battle, which was in the very beginning of the Revolutionary War, and it was a very historical landmark. But you can see very little of it from my vantage point there. On the drawing, I moved a little bit closer to it so I could get a better angle of the bridge. So let me take over the painting table. I want to add some of my those details to my plein air painting. So let's go to my painting table. Okay, this is a photograph which shows the scene I had, and you can see there's an awful lot of information here. There's a lot of boats and so forth, and piers and so forth. So what I did was I simplified that scene way down. I wanted to capture the building over here to the right, and the trees and the tree line, and of course the bridge is right back here, and then of course the waterway with the reflections. And of course the overcast sky. So those were the elements I was trying to capture. And I'm trying to eliminate all the other unnecessary details. And that's one of the main things when you go out plein air is you eliminate the unnecessary detail. Then I got up a little bit closer. I did a zoom in, and I actually got a better photograph of the actual bridge itself as it is today. And there's the opening that is there, and here's the bulkhead on the side, and there's a railing across the top with the background trees there. So that's a close-up picture now of what the bridge looks like today. Well, this was the one with all the information I had to look at, and this was really actually the bridge that I was trying to capture, at least the location of it. Yeah, I did a little drawing just to capture a little bit of what I call my value study with the trees and the building and the background and so forth. Now, now this you recognize if you look at the video again. This is the actual drawing I did on location. I got the building and the trees, and actually drew in the bridge and so forth, and I drew in the area of the reflections. So this was my design plan after I came back from plein air, and I've gone ahead and I've added in some more detail here to show actual structure, mainly the reflection. These little white poles are very interesting. It just adds a little bit more, adds something more to the composition, and of course the bridge itself. Uh, and this is not exactly the bridge entirely, but I just have enough here to identify it. It has a railing across the top and so forth. So let's go to the painting now. Okay, this is the painting I did on location. I did add the bridge in. I added some of the poles here on the side, a little extra detail I did, and the windows did here since I got back from the plein air trip. So let me go ahead and get started here as far as showing you what I'm going to do to improve on this. These are the colors I'm going to use today. Ultramarine blue. Let me get my other hand out of the way here. Ultramarine blue is up here at the top. Burnt sienna, which is down here at the bottom of my palette. Green number 1 at the bottom of my palette. Down here, green number 1. Yellow ochre down here at the bottom. And titanium white. That's going to add little white colors to those poles. That's why I have that. And I'm using the Fredrix Watercolor Canvas, which is what I painted on. This 8x10 Fredrix Watercolor Canvas. The watercolors are Holbein watercolors, and the silver brush is the ones I'm going to use in the painting. I got a number 8 round, and I have a 1/2 inch flat, natural hair, and I have a Holbein number 8 round also, which is synthetic. So these 3 brushes I'm going to use to finish off the plein air painting. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to concentrate on the bridge. Now, the part I showed you I thought was very important in the video was that I can take color out. So if I want to, let's say, change some of this color, and what I want to do is do that. I want to take this, I'm going to eliminate this pole right here. It's unnecessary. And I'm going to change this color right here. So I take a damp brush, a little bit of water in it, and then I just take a tissue and I pick that up. So that's how easy it is. Now this canvas board now is dry. The paint's dry, and it's been dry. It's been sitting here for a little over a week or so, completely dry. So I can still go in with a damp brush, and I can remove that paint. Just take a tissue, just dampen the area, take a tissue, and wipe it right out. Okay? Now let that dry a little bit while I go off and do something else. The next thing I want to do is I want to work on these reflections. And what I'm going to do is take a little bit of yellow ochre here, maybe burnt sienna mixed in, just to give me something to mark with. And I'm going to go ahead and put in some of the little details here. So I'm going to come down here, just mark in some marks. And this is just a reflection in the water. I'm going to do this very quickly just to indicate the structures, the area above. I just need to make a few marks. Just to indicate where I want to go on this. So I'm painting this upside down and upside down and reverse, just to understand what I'm doing here. I'm doing upside down, but I'm also looking at the reverse image here. Okay, and then This will come down here. Now remember, this is a reflection, so it doesn't have to be it won't be perfect because I just want to capture a little bit of the shape and so forth. And then there's some windows in here. And this is the whole, this is the roof over here, and there's some over here. Okay. And then as far as the tree line, I just want to put a couple marks in here just to give me a little guide. So I'm using the yellow ochre as a light color. I'm just going marking in areas that I'm going to put in some color. It'll come on down here and there'll be a reflection down here from this tree. Okay, that indicates what I'm going to do. All right, now what I'll do now is pick up a little bit of color, a little bit of gray, and it's a little bit of ultramarine blue mixed in with a little bit of burnt sienna, give me a gray color. That'll just be to indicate the top rooftops, roof. I'm going to pick up a little bit of ultramarine blue and just a touch of green number one, just to give me some color here. And this is going to be the reflection of the tree, the large tree. So I'm going to do this very quickly just to give you an idea of some of the details that can be added into a painting after the plein air. But the important thing is to collect the information you need. And by taking photographs, and in this case I took a video and I took some still shots also of the area and the location I was at. And then to come back and after I've done a drawing of the area, I'm very familiar then with what's happening at the location. So collecting information and number one, my first real mission at this location was to simplify. There was so much information there that with all those boats parked on the waterway there and all the other structures, uh, it had to be eliminated. It just was just too much. It was too busy. So right away, I eliminated those and went right into the landscape, the bridge, the tree line, and I left the one building and with this railing, this little railing complex here, which I thought was an interesting shape. Okay, now I'm building up some of the colors now. I'm going to come in here and put this dark color here along the reflection into the water from the bank here. Uh, and now I'm going to go back, let that dry just a little bit. I'll go back and do some more. But over here, now let's get the bridge squared away. I'm going to put in, using the photograph I took of the bridge, I'm going to put a darker section here. And a darker section here. Then I'll take a little bit of that burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, make a nice dark brown mix. And I'm going to put that edge on this bridge. This is a really dark edge here. This on the bottom of the bridge. Okay, now one last little touch there. I'm going to take this yellow ochre, and it was an overcast. Remember, this was early in the morning. This was sunrise, so I'm facing east. So I was looking into the sun, but of course it was overcast, so it didn't interfere with my vision of the area of this vision of the location. But remembering that I have the sunrise coming up here, so with a little bit of yellow, and a little yellow in the sky. I want to put that there underneath the bridge. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. And then I'm going to go back and put some more color over here. I want to finish this off over here. Okay, now my final step is I'm going to darken up this color here because the reflection is a little bit darker. But I wanted to block it in, block in the shape and the size. Now I can go in now and put a little darker color in the reflection. I'm using ultramarine blue. That's a darker color, and so I'll put that in there over top of that mixture of the green number 1 and ultramarine blue. So I'm putting a darker color in there. And there'll be a dark shadow here against the water itself, the reflection into the water. And I'm going to darken up these just slightly, just a little bit darker on the buildings, just to show them off, just slightly, just a little bit. And those windows, they're not well defined. They're just showing little marks in the water reflection. Okay, now I'm gonna dry this with the hair dryer. Okay, now I'm going to use this Holbein number 8 round, and just with a damp brush. Now here's more lifting here. I'm going to take this. I'm going to remove this color here for these white reflections into the water. See how that happens? Look at that. That post there's a reflection here in the water, so I'm going to lift this out just with a damp brush. That picks it right up. And one more. damp brush. Take a little more out. There's a couple more over here. So this is where the watercolor canvas works. It's the paint stays on top of the canvas. It dries, but then it can be removed just with a damp brush. And after it dries, if you go back and make a brush stroke on top, that's where you have to be careful because it will take off the layer of paint that you have on there. So it has a advantage and it has a disadvantage. Now what I'm going to do now, the last step I'm going to do, just to make it into a painting, well, to finish the painting, I'm going to cool this. I'm going to not simplify, I'm going to eliminate some of the detail back here, just a little bit. Because the emphasis is on the bridge, so I want to take a little bit off of the other areas. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow ochre in the flat brush, the 1/2-inch flat brush. Not too dark, just enough in there. And I'm going to take this and just move it across that part of the painting. I'm just trying to knock down the color just a little bit. Make it less defined. And I'm going to do the same thing in the water. Just a damp brush, a little bit of paint in it, and I'm going to make this less defined in the reflection. It just shows that there's something reflecting in the water. Even a little bit of these trees, I just want them to be not as, you don't want the sharp edge. It'd be like a fuzzy edge in the water. Now this one here, I can bring up a little bit higher. Okay, I'm going to give you a little close-up there as much as possible. Now that can be worked on some more, but that is the basic idea of the plein air paint, and then adding in some detail. And I added in the little bit of detail on the bridge. I showed you how to wipe out with the just a damp brush and water to take off the canvas, and I put a little bit of reflection pattern into the water. And I kind of define or undefine some of these areas by just making them a little fuzzier back here on the side, because I want the eye to go in and go into the impact area, which is the Great Bridge itself. Let me take you over to my main camera. I'm moving my mic and I'll turn out the light. Okay. Oop, I turn it off. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, this is my setup here on my plein air setup on the waterway. And this is a scene that I was looking at as I was starting. Okay. This is a little technical group there. Okay, that was the plein air experience I had with the Great Bridge Waterway. And I think the number one lesson there is when you have a landscape, whether it's a landscape with trees or whatever it is, you need to look at what you can eliminate to make the scene a little easier to paint, but also a little simpler as far. And number one, you need to define why you're painting it and what's the purpose of the painting. Now, my purpose was to capture that area and also to show the location of that waterway bridge. That was my intention. That was my main goal there for that particular painting. And I like to capture also the time of day. I wanted to capture early in the morning with the sunrise coming up. And it was a little bit overcast that day, but then I said, well, that gives me some practice on painting a cloudy day with the gray sky and then the light coming up underneath the clouds. So that was another opportunity to paint something new or something different. So that's the purpose of plein air, is to go out and paint what you see, but also try to capture something, maybe something new or something you haven't tried before. So the purpose of that demonstration was to show you also how the watercolor canvas works. So remind you to subscribe to my YouTube channel and sign up for my YouTube and also on Facebook and LinkedIn. And make some comments on this video. I'd like to hear some thoughts from you and also any questions you may have. I'll be back again next Thursday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So have a good week, happy painting, and I'll see you then.